The guards burst into the altar area through a side door. The royal sergeant led the way, shield pressed to his chest, sword at the ready. Two torchbearers followed and raised their torches higher to see who was moving near the altar. They saw two people, a young man in a thin linen tunic, barefoot with his hair loose, standing with his back to the stone wall. Opposite him was a monk in black robes, his head uncovered, his face pale, his hands raised. The sergeant shouted, "Step away from the throne!" and stepped forward loudly. The young man flinched and covered himself with his palms. The monk took half a step toward him as if he wanted to shield him. The torchbearer raised the flame even closer. "The prince?" one of the guards exclaimed in amazement. The young man clenched his teeth and nodded, not taking his eyes off the monk. The monk said, "I am responsible for everything." The sergeant gave a sign. Two guards pushed the monk against a column and twisted his arms. They did not touch the prince, but surrounded him on all sides to prevent him from escaping. "To the abbot, immediately," said the sergeant, and heavy footsteps echoed in the empty temple. The doors slammed shut, and the night air was replaced by the cramped corridor of the monastery. 6 months earlier, the king had decided that his son needed a strict upbringing. The prince was 17. His name was Ludwig. His elders called him Ludwig the Younger because his late grandfather was also named Ludwig. Since childhood, the boy had been stubborn and sharp-tongued. He argued with his teachers, disappeared from the courtyard without permission, and went to the city to watch weavers and gunsmiths at work. The king did not like this. He said, "The heir should not hang around with apprentices. The heir must learn to control himself." The bishop agreed. God's mercy is strengthened by discipline. The abbot of the monastery of St. Rufinus sent a letter promising to take care of the young prince's soul. Humility, Latin, history, and God's law. Without excessive strictness but without leniency. We educate through action. The king signed a decree, and at the end of August, Ludwig was sent to the monastery. On the first day, the prince was silent and tense. He was met at the gate by the abbot, a dry and attentive man. "Everything is simple here," he said. "Lessons, prayer, work, rest. You have been assigned a cell in the East Wing. Brother Matthew will be your teacher of Latin and writing. Father Stephen will be your confessor." Ludwig nodded. He did not like being told how to live, but realizing that it was useless to argue, he pressed his lips together and followed the abbot. Father Stephen was young for a priest. He was 27, no more. He was short, well-built, with regular features. His hair was short and dark, his eyes clear. He spoke calmly, without solemnity. At the first confession, he did not ask many questions but listened. "What is troubling you?" he asked when they were alone in the small chapel by the side aisle. Ludwig sighed and replied sharply, "I am troubled that I have been sent here." Stefan smiled cautiously. "People are not sent here. They come here to learn." "I wasn't asked," Ludwig said and looked down at the stone floor. "Are you angry with your father?" "I'm not angry. I see that he doesn't need me, but an obedient person on the throne." Stefan said nothing. He sat down on the bench next to him, not too close. "Obedience is not slavery," he said. "Sometimes it means that you know how to choose what to spend your energy on. Try to spend your energy on things that depend on you. On language, on the ability to keep your word, on the ability to listen to others." Ludwig shrugged. "I'll learn the language. I know how to keep my word." He said it sharply, but his voice trembled. Lessons went according to schedule. In the morning, Latin with Brother Matthew, then copying Chronicles, then reading. In the evening, spiritual conversations with Father Stephen. There, on the bench by the window in the small library, they talked for hours. At first, they talked about simple things. How difficult it was to sit still in the choir. How annoying the loud coughing of the old monks was. How much they wanted to laugh when Brother Cook told the same story about the bug in the soup. Stefan listened and did not interrupt. "If you find it funny, it means you're alive," he said. Gradually, the conversations became deeper. "How do you understand honesty?" Stefan asked. Ludwig replied quickly, "Don't lie. What if you don't say anything? If silence saves someone else's life, be silent. If silence saves your back from punishment, speak," the prince said sharply. "Why is that?" "Because someone else's life is more important than my own skin." Stefan nodded. "I'll remember your measure." Ludwig snorted. "You're my confessor. You need to be reminded of the measure." Stefan smiled. Sometimes you remind me of simple things more clearly than books. One rainy evening, the candles in the library were extinguished earlier than usual. The torchbearer had fallen ill, and the brothers decided to save wax. Stefan suggested moving the conversation to his cell. "It's cramped in there," he warned. Ludwig shrugged. "I don't care." The cell was indeed cramped. A narrow plank instead of a bed, a table, 2 stools, a small cross on the wall, and a wooden shelf with books and an inkwell. Stefan brewed some herbs in a clay jug and poured it into 2 cups. "It's customary here to drink this at night to keep warm," he said. Ludwig took the cup, burned his palms, but didn't show it. "Your hands are cold," Stefan remarked. "I get nervous when someone is constantly judging me," the prince snapped. "I'm not judging. I'm observing," Stefan replied. "It's the same thing." "Not always." That evening, the conversation touched on something Ludwig avoided. "Why don't you like to look people in the eye when you talk about your father?" Stefan asked. Ludwig flinched. "I do look." "No, you look away." "Is this one of your observation games?" the prince snapped. "No, it hurts both you and me. I want to understand where the pain is." "What does that have to do with you?" "I am your confessor. If I am a wall, you will hit it. If I am a door, you will be able to pass through." Ludwig put down his cup and paced around the cell. "When I was 10, he said quietly, my father said I was weak, that I thought too much about what I felt. He took me to the hall and told me to stand there until I stopped crying. I stood there for 2 hours. He fell silent. Stefan did not approach him or try to touch him. He said, 'Did you stand there because you were told to, or because you decided you could endure it?' I stood because otherwise he would have said again that I was weak. Do you think your father doesn't love you? He loves the throne and everything that is useful for the throne. Do you want his love? I need his justice." Stefan nodded. "That's honest." There were many such conversations. Ludwig began to visit not only in the evenings. During the day, he would sometimes knock on Stefan's door for a minute. "I read a chapter from Seneca. I don't understand what it means to live according to reason if the heart says otherwise," Stefan replied. "That is the struggle. Reason does not drown out the heart. It chooses what the heart is willing to pay for." Ludwig listened, and his face softened. He became more restrained in his arguments with Matthew. The brothers saw the change. Someone said, "Stefan knows how to guide a young man." Someone whispered, "Too much time together." There were always eyes in the monastery that saw too closely. Brother Hugo, the senior at the refectory, did not like Stephen. They had studied together, and once the abbot had chosen the young Stephen as his confessor, not Hugo, even though he was older. It stuck in his throat. He began to notice how the prince lingered at the door of Stephen's cell, how he left late, how he sought his gaze during services. Hugo whispered to the brother in the collar, "Keep your eyes open." The brother nodded. Rumors in the monastery spread slowly but surely. In the kitchen, they said, "They are too close." In the garden, they whispered, "The prince only listens to Stefan." The abbot listened without drawing conclusions. He called Stefan and said, "Keep a sense of proportion. You are responsible for the boy's soul, not his heart." Stefan did not argue. "I understand." The abbot asked, "Are you sure you understand the boundaries?" "Yes," said Stefan, but uncertainty flashed in his eyes for a split second. The abbot noticed, but said nothing. In January, Ludwig fell ill. He developed a fever, and his cough kept him awake. The cell was cold, and the brother, who was a doctor, ordered that the young man not be carried through the corridors. Stefan came to him at night with hot water and a towel. He sat down next to him, changed the compress, and gave him something to drink. Ludwig rambled, "Don't go." Stefan replied, "I'm here." In the morning, the young man felt better. He grabbed Stefan's hand. "Thank you." "It's my duty," he replied. "No, it's more than that," said Ludwig, and didn't let go right away. Stefan gently pulled his hand away and said, "Rest." Ludwig closed his eyes but listened to Stefan's footsteps in the hallway until they faded away. In the spring, Ludwig grew stronger. He ran to training with his brother, the armorer, again, argued in class again, but argued differently, without